Hello, hi, welcome back to the studio. I'm here with another beginner prompt tutorial for you. Don't mind my runny eyes. I have a headache, but I am still very keen on sitting down to draw with you because for me, drawing has a very relaxing effect, and so it might be able to actually help with said headache. Anyway, today we are doing single line drawing or continuous line drawing. And it's sometimes called continuous contour, I believe, but this one, unlike the previous blind contours, is not blind. We actually get to look at the page while we go. We don't lift our implement off the page, so it's like one long wiggly wonky. It's got a very special kind of visual effect, but we're allowed to look at the page, so that changes things considerably. So this is one I did of an interior, and you can see like up here, like things get wrong and wonky because I'm not pre-sketching it in pencil or anything like that. I'm literally starting at one corner and just trying to follow the line everywhere. And you know, you'll get into a corner and have to retrace and backtrack and all this stuff. So things get funky. But I have some ground rules for you because this was what I filmed as my first lesson for you. And I have to say this was challenging, and I'm pretty fast when I'm observing and when I'm making marks. And this took me a while. And if you don't have a good understanding of perspective, doing a room in 3D like this will just, because of the way all these lines change direction and everything, it had a really cool effect because it was all paneled. So it really emphasized that like retracing kind of visual style. But I would suggest highly, unless you really understand perspective, like linear perspective, you will have to know if you do a room like this, you'll have to know at least 1 point perspective and understand it pretty well, be able to observe it. And even then, because we're not sketching it all out, things get crazy. So I would recommend doing one wall. So pick a wall and just start at one side and draw your way across the wall. And that's what I will be filming again for you right now. I'm going to refilm this lesson, but only doing one wall. Take out the element of perspective because I haven't taught you perspective yet. And you might not have taken perspective lessons yet. So that said, I have chosen a picture of an interior. You can just do it in your own home, pick a wall, observe from life. That's the best thing to do. I always say observe from life, but my space is crazy right now. I don't really want to look at it. 2, I believe what you focus on, you create more of. So I'm going to spend my time daydreaming and looking at beautiful homes that I want. So that's why I've picked a picture that I'm going to draw from. That's enough chit chat. Let's dive in. Today I am going to draw using my Micron PN. I prefer this plastic nib to any other Micron because it doesn't get dull and then you can't draw unless you're holding it straight up and down. That always happens to me. This is much more versatile and you're able to draw with the pen at many different angles. I'm going to start in the top left-hand corner of my photograph today, and I'm just going to do this one wall. Whoops. Already I'm kind of messing it up. It's okay. You'll get used to me saying it's totally okay. Everything's okay. So I'm going to kind of lay down some ground rules for the whole room. I'm laying in where I think this whole bank of, wow, I already want to change it. I don't like it. Flip, and we start over. Okay. You got this, Jessie. Okay. So coming down this weird wall to this cupboard. Y'all, I have a really bad headache, and so I can barely think. Notice if I want to get a line better than when I first drew it, I just kind of retrace it. And these lines aren't necessarily in the shape, but I can see ridges there. So you can add lines wherever you want. It's not like you're just outlining. For example, I can do this, which is the shadow. So I've like outlined the shadow. And then this is kind of a neat plant that comes up. Looks a bit funky, but I think that's pretty good. And there's some pieces that are coming back here. And then I climb back down, like retrace my steps and move along. The reason I don't recommend, I'm going to leave in that clip at the beginning where I messed up immediately. And it's because I tried to make a whole shape and it wasn't the right dimensions or something. It's just a lot easier to creep your way across your scene. So just be patient. You might actually be moving a lot slower than I'm moving. I'm pretty used to observation, and I'm also very comfortable with what to fudge. So there's some shapes in here. I don't even know what I'm drawing exactly. They look like clay pots of some kind. I don't know. But I'm very comfortable with making stuff up. And so I might be moving a lot faster than you will. And that's just keep that in mind, that this, very much like the blind contour, could take some time. Okay, coming down along here. I don't know what this is, but it's round. And I'm still trying to keep things the right perspective, like the right proportion to each other. So I am looking at how tall this container is compared to this circle or sphere, and trying to stay true to that. I don't know, this almost looks like a pot sitting within another pot. I don't know if that's what's happening here, but it's not necessary to completely understand what you're drawing. Here's a little woobly woo shape. And we don't typically like shade in, but it's okay for things to naturally just get darker because you're going over the line. And while I'm not shading this in, it's okay to it's okay to have things kind of appear more solid. I actually think it helps add to the interest. This is the shadow along the side here. And what you might find, same with the blind contour, is that your hand sort of cramps. So I have to kind of remind myself to relax. Normally I don't notice that my hand is cramping until I literally am shaking. Here's a little droopy part. So this shelf is ending up way larger than I meant to draw it, but that's perfectly fine. It just means like less total stuff will end up in my drawing. I won't get the whole wall in. I won't have the like stove and everything in here, and that's okay. I don't know what this is. Squiggly, squiggle, squiggle. So you might be moving this pace around your drawing, and that's okay. Ooh, my hand is cramping and shaky today. And that brings us to the very edge of our cupboard, set of cupboards. I don't know how tall to make these cupboards, so I think what I'll do is I'll come up here and I'll start going across, and I'm going to make a conscious effort, like where does the first set of cupboards end? And it looks like kind of in the middle of this. So I'm going to come over to here and then come down. And this just helps me a bit with the structure so I don't end up with 3 cupboards when there should be a lot more. There's supposed to be 4 or 6, you know. The next one is kind of at the edge of this circle one, but more importantly, we probably want them to be like a similar width. And then that's as far as I really want to go across because, like I said before, I'm already making mistakes. Oh no, this is the center. Okay, everything's fine. Stay calm. Okay, going back up, retracing my step. I'm going to come over this way. And then this is where the glass panel is. So coming to the middle. I don't really know how tall to make this. So I think I'll do what's inside, which will help me get a good size, like a good height going. So this is the shelf inside. And I don't think this is like a window pane. I believe this is like a shelf inside. And then this is the pane of glass. And the top section, like this shelf, doesn't go through the center of the cupboard. It's a little taller down here. So far, that is what's happening. Good. And let's do this like this. But notice here's the bottom of the window pane. So I kind of made my cupboards way too big. Not a big deal. But I get annoyed with stuff like that. I don't think it's going to ruin the whole drawing or anything. The drawing is kind of somewhat meant to look like a hot mess. There's a shadow here, so this isn't actually a shape in here. This is a shadow over here. I don't really know. Oops. I don't really know what's stacked back here, and that doesn't really matter. So this is the bottom of the cupboard right here, going up the side, and then there's a little handly handle and a handle right here. Let's go all the way across, and I'm going to climb up. Sometimes to keep things symmetrical, I'll like the little join lines, I will always put them in the same place, but I'm not too concerned with that right now. I'm just gonna work my way around, and you kind of get the idea, right? Like it's not at all perfect. It is taxing on the brain to get these observations correct the first time around. So I drew this and I was watching where the height is there, because if I'm only looking where I'm drawing and not matching it to things around the space, I might as well be doing a blind contour, right? So I try my best to, I'm just going to go right through here as if it's see-through, whatever. These look like they might be plates, I don't know. And over here, there's a plant in the way, so I can't really even see what's going on in here. Should I be drawing that plant? Yeah, maybe. Let's do that. Let's focus, let's learn. It's okay for things to be see-through if we're learning. Who cares? Coming down here. Okay, that wasn't very observation based. That was a bit expressive and kind of cartoony, so you can ignore that if you want, but I don't really have, this plant looks kind of fuzzy to me. I don't have great detail about it, so I'm gonna just let it be a bit more abstracted. So these aren't like exact shapes, but I'm getting the gist, or I'm trying to get the gist. There's some big leaves that I think matter, but then beyond that, it's just a bunch of leafy chaos. There's a big leaf coming down here, and another bloom way over here. Wow. So this plant, I may have made this plant smaller than it actually is. So I'm just making a bunch of leafy things, and then I'm going to climb my way back up here and continue on where I was headed. So up here we have this. I think it's a bit more effective to not go through that center bar and just go back and forth and back and forth. Cool. Taking a little bit of a breather, catch my bearings. I noticed I didn't put anything in here, so I can go over there. Awesome. Continuing on. I'm going to take my own advice and not go too far. I'm going to come up here. This is the very outside of the cupboard. My lines are not perfect. They are not super straight. Whoa. And I'm drawing them. Like, the longer I draw, the wonkier things get. Whoops, I got a little low. It's okay. You'll see me lift to change my the way I'm holding the pen. I probably wouldn't be doing that as much if I weren't recording for you, but I'm trying to get my hand out of the way of some of this drawing. So you can be super anal about this and not go through that center bar, and you could go all the way down and over and up. I don't really bother with that. But it's totally up to you. If you want to try to not have lines cross, like the very, very best, you're welcome to give it a shot. What this does is it just makes us observe where things are connecting and where things are overlapping. And like right here, there's a glare. I don't know why I'm trying to draw things in that I can't see. This is probably all a glare. There's something back here, so I can suggest that. There's some shapes back in here. But for the most part, this has some glare. So that's what I'm gonna draw, actually. I'm gonna draw the glare. Okay, cool. Did I miss a handle there? I think the handle's like over here. I don't know why, but it is. And then back here we can't even see because there's another planty McPlant. But we see a bit of it. And that line is crazy and not really in the right spot. but that's fine. You'll hear me say that a lot. That's fine. That's okay. And I believe it. I'm not making it up. I really want to draw this plant from the bottom up rather than the top down. I find that really challenging. So I'm going to recognize that this is the bottom of the cupboard. I can't really see this in my reference, but I'm going to drop down what I know to be the right height-ish, and then I'm going to put in this pot. That way, when I draw the plant, I can center it over the pot, and it won't bite me later. It won't look really crazy later. Oh, there's another pot here. Hello. Hello, pot. Okay. So I'm not talking a ton today about what this is doing. I'm just hoping by now you trust me in this exercise and that it's valuable and it has an interesting application. Like the final drawings are kind of wacky and wild. I love them. They're really weird. Look, I'm hiding a mistake in a line that I don't want there with plant parts. But yeah, I cannot see this plant. It's just a big blob. Maybe I should just try to get the outline. It's just another tool for observation, another way to get out of our heads and the way we think things should look, because that's a big barrier when you're learning to draw, is our brain fights us and it puts things... Wow, this plant looks nuts. I just want to scribble. Maybe I should. That's what I'm going to do. So another thing that just working in your sketchbook does, it makes it lower stakes, right? No one has to see this. But also it allows you to play and stumble upon other things. So if I didn't do this, then maybe if I wasn't doing this particular style of drawing today, maybe I wouldn't have ended up just scribbling a plant. But I'm thinking, why not? Why not? So get in your sketchbook as often as you can. And here's a window. And just see what happens. And don't fight impulses like that. If you get an impulse to do something weird or new, the sketchbook is the place to do it. I'm telling you. And by weird or new, I mean weird or new for you. Don't feel like you have to be... What is happening here? I can't even tell if that's like the tile behind this. Yeah, I think it is. I don't know. There's a pot here or something. The tile behind this counter stuff is wacky. But yeah, I want you to really just embrace those impulses to try new things in your sketchbook and see where it takes you. I can't tell what anything is back here. I'm assuming this is a plant. How much further? Okay, my hand was blocking this. Same thing as before. Rather than draw the plant top down, I'm going to go all the way through this plant, which the base of is actually way over here. So I kind of maybe got this plant over too much to the right, but I'm not going to worry about it. Things that are closer to us are going to appear larger. Look how beautifully wonky this thing is. And where's the shadow? There's some big leaves and then shadows. And then there's a pot back here. So this stuff's on the table in front. There's some stripes or something on it. And that can creep me over to this one, which is a low... Maybe I made these too far down, I think. I definitely did, but because the top of this plant should be way up here, I think. But I was working top down, so that's part of why that happened. With plants, trees, things like that, if you're trying to do an outdoor scene, you will have better luck doing those from the ground up, just the way the plant would grow. It's just going to look a lot more natural. And shadow. Shadow. And then these are shadows too. Whoop. See, that shadow comes over here, and then this pot's not even supposed to be to here. So I'm finding some mistakes. But there's not much I can do about those mistakes right here, but what this drawing is doing, it's allowing me to find those mistakes. So I'm hoping that you actually maybe catch more mistakes this way, look at my plant, than you would have if you were drawing everything normally. Who knows? I don't know what's happening here. I am not sure that I love my plant scribbles today. I think this is absolutely bonkers. That's okay. Man, I say that a lot. That's okay, that's okay. I advised you to just do a wall, so what I'm doing now with the perspective of the table's probably a bit much. So if you want to just ignore that, go ahead and do so. Here's the other edge of the table. That it'll come out here and it'll come out like that. Working my way back up to fill in some of this space with some more leaves. I'm kind of wondering if there's much else that I need to do. I could fill in this space. It's looking kind of cool. Let me climb through this plant here. Edge of the counter, that's what I want. I want the edge of this counter. So I shouldn't do it over here because there's nothing over here, right? But these are over here. So I actually think it's more important to get that right. Like get the counter thing right based on where these are sitting. So I hope that made sense. Like if these have to be on the counter, then I better start the counter over here rather than over here. Because what if I started over here and the counter came over and those were like hanging off of it? That might happen to you. Like you might end up with things that are just floating. They're not in the right spot. That's really normal with this kind of drawing for weird stuff to happen. Totally normal. And I'm also going to put in a couple lines here. Oh, I want to add these beautiful what are these? Cupboards? No. Yes. No, they're drawers. These are drawers. I know words. I speak English. Just drop down and add a handle. Cool. There's a corner of a kitchen. Some funky stuff happening. For fun, why don't we just go and add in some of the tile detail. There's some, and that might hide some of our mistakes. There's like weird solutions that you end up doing in your sketchbook because you're trying to hide something. If you didn't make mistakes, you might not be trying to hide those mistakes, and you might not, you know, come across some really interesting. Right now I'm trying to do like random patterns on the tile and it's just going to make a big mess. Dee, 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 dee. This is wacky tile though, and I can't tell what's going on here. But basically, sometimes the best stuff happens when we are messing around like this, or when we think we have to solve a certain problem. Me kind of muddling this up. I'm basically saying, yeah, there's detail back here, but it does not matter. I don't care. What I do care about is finishing this, and the shelf was right here. I'm going to continue this down here and through there just in case. Yeah, I want it to show up a little bit through there. There's some glare here. Lovely. I could just keep fiddling with it and fiddling with it and fiddling with it, but it's kind of interesting just the way it is right now. So I'm going to leave it. Might add a couple details. Let's just pretend that I crawled my line all the way back across to here. I wouldn't recommend doing a bunch of this at the end. It's kind of taking away the fun of like it's kind of cheating if you just can go anywhere at the end, but yeah. The point of this, to end up with a really funky result of something, to methodically piece together your surroundings, literally like a puzzle, but one thing next to another. You might end up with things not matching, with things floating places. It happens. Here's the window that's somehow in front of this bank of cupboards. Like, that's fine. At this point, what you can do, if you want to, I think I'm just going to leave this because I think the line is beautiful, but you can also grab a very light marker, like a Tombow or a mild liner, and you can strategically add in stuff. Like I could color these in, all the sort of shadows. I know those are really dark, those are like black, but trust me when I say just a little bit of light gray, it doesn't overshadow the fact that this is ultimately a line drawing. The light gray just kind of accents it, and it's more subtle. So what I would do is I would fill these shadows with it, the shadows that I demarked up here. And I'm not saying you should do this, it's just an option. It's more common to just embrace the fact that this is a line drawing. See how these flowers got lost? If I was really trying to polish this up and stay true to the type of drawing, I would just go back in here and make these a lot thicker, or maybe I would start not shading, but adding a more density of line over here. So I'm not shading, but by adding more detail and density, see how I'm like creating this thing's more solid now. And see, I'm just going zigzaggy back and forth here. Some might argue this is shading it. It's like hatching if you're just going to go back and forth, but I'm keeping with the actual stuff, right? These are plants. And just layering in more, basically. I want this bloom to show up, so I'm just going to keep outlining it until it does. Look at that. Boom. And these are not part of the tiles. These are leaves. At least I think they are. There's one up here. That was nice because it layered over top of this, showing that it's in front of. This gets completely lost. You could just keep going over it until it too stands out. You have to kind of keep the same style or the same character of line throughout. If you're going to go over and over something and you're really generalizing, it might end up just looking like cartoony. But if you really, while you're doing this, you really stay focused. You're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. You're actually observing and trying to translate that. I think that you can't go wrong. I think you're going to learn from this, and bonus, you'll have a pretty cool drawing at the end of it. I really would love to see your spaces turned into a continuous line drawing, or whatever room or space you ended up choosing. And let me know too if you decided to do entirely different subject matter, like a landscape or still life scene or something like that. See you next time. Thank you for joining me for another beginner sketchbook prompt tutorial. If you are looking for additional instruction, or just want to hang out with me more and draw, and you need that or want that extra motivation or company in your studio, sometimes I find it incredibly helpful and motivating to come into my studio, throw on a different artist on YouTube, and do my own work alongside them. It just makes it feel like somebody's working along in the studio with me, especially for those of us who have regular 9-to-5s, and then we find ourselves in the studio when other people are watching Netflix or hanging out with their children. I don't have children. I end up working like wee weird hours, and it's really nice to have some company for that. If you want additional tutorials, come hang out with me on my Patreon. Ding. And over there you can also contribute your ideas for subject matter. I will take that into consideration, subject matter or any sort of tutorial you want to suggest. And then also for community, my Patreon is the place where you can ask for feedback, and we can have critiques as a group and individually. There's lots of potential for that and for growth on that platform. I'm a brand new beginner Patreon person at this point. So if you head over there and you're my first, thank you. Welcome. We're gonna have the bestest time. And you can get the prompt list over on my website, dottington.us. And that way you can kind of check mark along as you do each tutorial and keep track of your progress, and also have a record of like what each assignment is. And that's everything. I'll see you next week for another tutorial. Bye.